All right, I'm going to mute everyone out now and feel free to come back in, Lynn.
You are now recording.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone to the endocrine series that I've beginning to create for you, which I hope will turn into a book for you in time. And these PowerPoints, of course, or in PDF form, we'll send them to you. You can certainly have them and use them. And this series, as you know, is, other than teaching the heart, is my great love. I love to talk about the endocrine system. I've studied it my whole life, and both from an energetic standpoint and a physiological standpoint. And so this series is something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and I would not do if it were not for Lynn Mayer. So you can definitely thank Lynn for helping me with these PowerPoints. And okay, why did that work like that? Okay, I think I had it expanded a little too much. Okay, we'll just do that. All right. So Dr. Lee, in his life's work, which I have tried to bring to you in my life's work, or through my life's work, felt that the endocrine system is the most significant system in the body, along with the heart and cardiovascular, which you could include the nervous system with that, and digestion. So his triad for health was endocrine, cardiovascular, digestion. Now, I, as I say, enjoy teaching the endocrine and the cardiovascular, and I leave the digestion to pros like Monica and others. So even though I do teach it a little bit. But of course, when you look at these 7 endocrine glands, you're affecting the digestive system. This is the communication network for the whole body. Now, in recent days, they talk about hypothalamus. They talk about other organs that secrete hormone. But the 7 primary endocrine glands are unique because they are ductless. They are not affected by the primary circulation in the body. They're fed through these blood vessels, a specific network of blood vessels, but they are unique in what they do, what they excrete, and how they are affected by the external world. And so, and I, obviously, I'm going to do a brief review here, just quickly, of the other 2 sessions that I've taught. One was on the pineal, and I'm happy to send these to you, the notes, if you don't have them, and then on the pituitary. So I want to just give you something that came out of both of those. But first, I want you to have this article, which I can send it to you in its entirety. This is a quote. And it must be remembered that the metabolism of the human body, being an animal function, is a breaking down process of complex compounds that are built up by the systemic processes of plant metabolism. we must eat the earth. And we must eat what lives off of the earth, i.e. animal substances. The animal or human body cannot build up organic compounds and is wholly dependent upon the vegetable kingdom / animal kingdom, in my opinion, for organic foods. Vitamins are a class of organic compounds, not synthetic vitamins. These are vitamins, minerals, and proteins that are found in food and animal substances. Probably the most complex of food constituents. All the ductless glands, here he lists them, thyroid, parathyroid. And just remember, the parathyroid is part of the thyroid. And it's not acknowledged much unless you're working with someone that has calcium, too much calcium in their blood, or bone healing issues. But Dr. Lee includes it as 2 parts of one thing: thymus, pineal, pituitary, adrenals, gonads, and pancreas, the Isles of Langerhans. And he says the spleen. Very interesting, huh? We don't think of it, but the spleen is not a ductless gland, but he does mention it. And in my other class I gave you on this, the heart also is considered an endocrine gland, or excretes hormones. Must have, all of these must have one or more of the 3 classes of vitamins. So here it is. Here's the pearl. What does he mean by 3 classes of vitamins? The vitamin, as we know it, the mineral, and the like protein. In order to secrete their vital fluids, and if deprived of the vitamins, will atrophy and cease to function. So what should we feed first? What should we feed first as nutritionists, as clinicians? Well, based on Dr. Lee, who has proven to have been right for 90 years over, it would be the endocrine system. So let's get into this a little deeper. And all of the conditions that you see, he mentioned some here, but look at this: infectious diseases. And this is why products like Immuplex are so important for what's going on in the immune systems and health people of this country and the world right now. Because unless you support these various organs and the endocrine system, people are not going to be able to withstand any pathogen. Where did things begin to go wrong? And where did things begin at one point to go right? Synthetic hormones were introduced in the United States way back at the turn of the 20th century. Mayo Clinic did a lot in finding these. Thyroxine was discovered. Of course, these are synthetic now. These are chemically produced in a laboratory. Originally, they were discovered in the organs of animals, of course, mainly porcine, I believe. So, for instance, thyroxine was found in porcine thyroid, and then it was synthesized 10 years later. And cortisone in adrenal in 1929, also Mayo Clinic. I couldn't find where insulin was originally found, 1922. Now, there were men back at that time, mainly Henry Harrower, who was working with doctors all over the world. He started giving injections of these different organ and endocrine substances, injecting them into the blood, and you know what he found? They didn't work as well as they did when they gave them through the digestive pathways. So here are substances and how they work based on his findings. When these three particularly became synthetic, and all of the work that he was doing was washed under the carpet, was swept under the carpet. They didn't want to use the glandulars anymore. They didn't feel they were significant because they can make a lot of money selling these, not as much selling these. And of course, Dr. Lee also came along at that time and had a relationship with Dr. Harrower and was the one that really revolutionized the glandular extracts, especially the protomorphogens, which I didn't put on there, and the glandular, the different processes that they provided. So remember that. So this is a chart. It's what I've shown you the last 2 times with exactly what Dr. Lee said. You need the vitamin, the mineral, the protein, and I added in the herb and an action step for each of the 7 ductless glands. So you've had that before. And our great David Brownstein, who is such a proponent of iodine, of course, he's the iodine guy, I guess you could say, in his book, The Miracles of Natural Hormones, talked about pineal, how significant that was, and described the amino acid that you need: vitamin, mineral, like protein / amino acids. You cannot make hormone without these essential amino acids. So, and in this Human Anatomy encyclopedia, it says this: remember that a lot of credence is paid to the hypothalamus now, and that's fine. And we do use it. I do apply nutrition in my book about it. But you have to remember that the hypothalamus is a neuroendocrine gland. It is part of the brain. It is not ductless. So it is not truly, purely an endocrine gland. And it is the gateway of communication between the endocrine system and the nervous system. So we're not going to go into that today. And here is what was said. We do not know much about it, talking about the pineal, its endocrine activity. We are sure that it produces melatonin, which acts on the hypothalamus. So remember that this is a sequence. This is an order of communication and order and influence in the body that is above down, which is highly significant. So the hypothalamus is not the key player. And without pineal information, hypothalamus can't function well, okay? And you see, as they go on here, the production of melatonin is stimulated by the adrenals. You see this communication system between these 7 endocrine glands? Highly significant. So without strong adrenals, you cannot sleep well. Ovarian cycles, all of the rhythms and cycles of the body cannot function well. So it's important to begin to understand the relationship of these in the body. And then, of course, apply the right nutrition. And then, as we looked at last time, Dr. Lee, which you can get through the book Vitamin News. Now, if you all are interested in clinical pearls from Dr. Lee, you could go on to Saline River Press and their historical archives, yes. But this book is a gem. You should have this in your library. There's no question. And here's an excerpt. in vertebrates, the pituitary body is connected with the parathyroid apparatus. Do you notice? He didn't say just the thyroid. He always includes the parathyroid, as it is with the adrenals by direct nerve pathways. So he even knew then that not only did the pituitary gland have a relationship with the thyroid parathyroids, but also the thyroid with the adrenals and the pituitary with the adrenals. And this is why this HPA axis, which I have studied, and it's fairly new, the last, 10, 15 years, but in my opinion, they have left out. It should be hypothalamus, pituitary, thyroid, adrenal axis. And you'll see more and more this correlation as we move along here. Here's another quote. The pituitary body contains the governing center of the parathyroid apparatus and adrenals and coordinates the secretory activity of those organs. All the secretions that the thyroid and the adrenals give out tie back in with the pituitary body. So, and one other gem from the last session on the pituitary. The key to this whole syndrome is the posterior pituitary action. And here's the gem. Most overweight people have an obviously disordered endocrine balance. Just think of all the stuff you've tried with, weight loss programs and other herbs and other substances, but until we get the order back in the endocrine system, the weight is never going to balance out. But too much attention in the past has been directed to the thyroid, overstimulating the thyroid. Well, we just read that the thyroid is governed by something else, pituitary. Sometimes the thyroid is at fault, granted. That's where all the focus is, but not very often. Wow. The pituitary deficient patient is the type that cannot reduce in spite of food restriction. How many diets have people gone on and they can't lose a pound? Because this communication through this very small system, really, when you look at it, size of these endocrine glands seems so insignificant, but is the key. So there it is. So what product for this, by the way, is pituitrophin would be the one. So let's really focus in on the thyroid itself, knowing that this hierarchy is so significant. The hierarchy of pituitary in conjunction with hypothalamus and pineal. So the thyroid gland looks like a butterfly, which I'll show you further on here. And it's known as the butterfly gland. So what is its primary modus operandi in the body? It relates to the life force in the body. It's the happiness, emotional balance. I call it the happy gland or the unhappy gland. The thyroid hormones are the messengers key to this stability and emotions and all metabolic functions. And remember that the thyroid really focuses the life energy of the body. It actually enhances light or electrical current, the Krebs cycle. along with its friend, the B4 factor, the B1, B4 factor, adenosine triphosphate is describes the Krebs cycle, and here it is. Here is the adenosine factor, the B vitamins. That's very important to remember. Now, what does it do? It will fan or dampen the fire of the life force throughout the body. And as I said, it's the third gland, ductless gland in the hierarchy. It governs the rate of every cell function. It's governing that. We know that the pancreas provides the fuel, which we'll look at in a couple months, but the thyroid regulates the utilization. And this was why when we look at the heart sound recorder, when we look at, what have we looked at, everyone, together? Thousands and thousands of people's hearts. We cannot leave out the principle that is thousands of years old in Chinese medicine. Thyroid governs heart, heart governs kidney. So there is that true triad, that alliance of energy moving throughout the body. So there's three. I just picked three. There were many more. But what is it the thyroid responsible for? Well, its relationship with the adrenals and maintaining tissue integrity throughout your life. It's a key to longevity. People don't think of it this way, but it does. And normalcy throughout the body. Helps to regulate. How does it do that? Through the metabolic index, heart rate, muscle action, peristalsis. These are your people with high cholesterol, which I put in there, and constipation. If you have a constipated client, you have a client with thyroid issues. And brain function, intellectual ability. The World Health Organization, when we get to iodine, says that the #1 cause of mental retardation, now just think of that in children, but all of your brain cognitive function is an iodine deficiency. They admit it, they know it, they have found it. And of course, what we tend not to think about much related to the thyroid's interwoven partner, the parathyroids, is the balance of calcium phosphorus ratios related to bones and teeth, soft tissue, all. So let's look at some just observations. Now, I'm not going to go through every one of these, but I want to pick out a few. How can you know? You could do blood work. We'll get into that now in a little bit. But how do you know, just through your observation, your intake of a client, sitting and talking with them for at least an hour, 2 hours, listening to their life story? How do you know if thyroid is a priority in your care? It's the person that cannot get their life together. This is a key. That's why I put it #1. Their life rhythms are off. It could be female cycles. It could be related to men in their patterns of success in their life. They cannot get into a rhythm and stick with it. Can't get it together. The other way to tell is very simple Ayurvedic observations is the loss of the eyebrow on the outside, right? Which most of you probably know. The one that I ask everyone is, how are you in the morning? I can't get going. I can't, if I don't have a cup of coffee, I can't get going. That's your thyroid person. Afternoon is adrenal. Now, other teachers teach other things, but I'm telling you, you should have the most energy in the morning, not the least energy. Like I need to be pushed down the hill to get through the day. Look at some of these though. You never thought of thyroid related to glaucoma and cataracts. But if you think of thyroid being the regulator of calcium and that mineral throughout the body, you could see why it's tied in here. And the other thing, of course, if it's hyperthyroid, you see the bulging eyes, we know that, and the drooping eyes. The other thing that I ask people, and you know this from the Heart Sound recording webinars, do you have cold hands and feet? Do you have tingling sensations? Thyroid, everyone. Thyroid. So I'm not going to go through all of these. You can see some of the applications. And women in menopause, if their hair is thinning and falling out, they say, oh, that's estrogen. No, it isn't. It's thyroid. And look at people's nails. Are they ridged? And their toenails. There it is. And I want to make one other comment about men, because we think of thyroid mainly with women. In my experience, 48 years, going in my 49th, men that become couch potatoes, they have no interest in life. As they get through that 50 to 60 years old, they get into the andropause phase of their life. Or depression and anxiety. That's a thyroid. That's low thyroid. And a lot of men with heart conditions. It's true. So again, I'm not going to go through all of this, but you can read these through and see and understand some of the implications with the other parts of the endocrine system. From slowness of thought, forgetfulness, to elevated cholesterol. People keep thinking, oh, geez, yeah, cholesterol, we gotta statins, we gotta get the right nutrition. But if you can't get the thyroid balanced out, you're not gonna regulate cholesterol. Because the body is gonna produce it more as we get older anyway, because you make hormone out of it. It protects, as you'll see here in a quote from Dr. Lee, it protects. It's part of the protective mechanism around all of the nervous system. It is going to rise as we get older. Things are aging. It has to. But you can keep it under control using thyroid support. So you can look at these. This is the symptom survey form, group 7 and group A, group 7A and group 7B. And I, as you know, and when I start teaching now in the latter part of September on my webinars, the first hour is going to be devoted to the Heart Sound Recorder, the second to my book and how I create protocols. Now, you can't be on my webinars unless you have my book. So that will be the key. There's no charge for my webinars, but if you're going to be on in the rest of my teaching career, you must have my book, because you cannot really practice good nutrition without it. Now, it sounds arrogant, but it's true in my opinion. So what are the three, and we all know this, so I'm going to skip through this quickly. The three primary hormones. 80% of thyroid hormone produced is inactive thyroxine. So what do? Medical science pumps people with this stuff. Try to boost them up. But unless it gets converted in the liver and kidneys, you don't get that activity. It has to reach the cellular network. And here is your T3, which is only 20%. But that action, that cellular acceleration, is the key to health, happiness, vibrancy, and long life. And of course, what else happens as we age is the thyroid plays a huge part in this hormone. Now we think of estrogen receptors, yes, but that works in conjunction, which I'll get to when I teach you ovaries and testicles next year, probably calcitonin. Extremely significant. So I'm not going to go through these blood tests because you have Dr. Gator, you have Dr. Keppel, you have others that teach you. You can take courses on this, how to read these, but I wanted to put these in here so that you know what we feel is a good blood work, the CBC that you can do, and the other things that you need, okay? So, and these are the ranges, of course, the normal ranges that we feel are, and most nutritionists feel are normal, and medically as well. And here is some of the discrepancy in some of these thyroid hormones and the product and the dosage, which I'm not going to go into now. You can read that through and use this as a guide. And a lot of this comes out of Dr. Gator's work and some other references. So when we say lifestyle, well, I want to live a lifestyle that's really going to enhance my endocrine system, my thyroid. Joseph talked about that. Yes. What are the obstacles in our environment? Oh, just a couple. And here they are. Contraceptives, steroids, hormone replacement therapy, which they feel is the answer to everything, but it's not. It's only going to create other imbalances. You can't give the body too much. You got to give the body just what it needs. And you can't push the body with chemicals. It will never respond over the long haul properly. You will age much quicker. Antidepressants, dopamine levels. Now here is where we get into how the hypothalamus, which is mainly a dopamine producing part of the brain. And this is very classic in Parkinson's. Oh, what did I just say? Oh, you mean Parkinson's and the chemicals and other toxins that people are exposed to affect the thyroid, which affects the Parkinson's? Look at Parkinson's. Look how people are on Parkinson's. They are shaking. Do you think that's normal metabolic function? You think that ties in with thyroid? Better believe it. Amalgam fillings that a lot of people still have. People that can't take off weight, they can't balance out that metabolism. Find out, do they have mercury toxicity of any kind? Where does the body store it? The mercury gets into the bloodstream, gets up through the blood-brain barrier, gets stored up in the brain. There it is. Diabetes is a real detriment to thyroid health. And here it is, Sue, Lyme syndrome and endocrine imbalance. This affects so much of the body, and specifically endocrine function and specifically thyroid function. Anemia, not enough iron, right? There it is. And any radiation, cell towers, any microwaves, airplanes, any radiation, X-rays. Oh, well, you're blocked off, you're protected. It all has an effect. Just think of these things with your clients and how many you say, geez, I cannot balance out their thyroid. What is the matter with me? There's nothing the matter with you. There's nothing the matter with you. This is the mountain you have to climb with these people of getting these influences out of their life. So should we all move to the country? Yeah, probably. So here is the basic protocol, which is also, this is an abbreviation of the 2 protocols from my book that I'll review with you. You want the vitamin, right? What does vitamin F do? Oh, it cooperates with thyroxine, making it accessible, T3, to the tissues. There it is. Prolamine iodine is another product. If iodine is 2/3 of the thyroid by dry weight, do you think that's significant to function? And yet they say, oh, don't take too much. And I agree. But, and don't take too little would be my point. And that is a huge problem in our society. Table salt alone is not going to do it. It's not. So, yeah, I think I muted everyone. There you go. And so, very significant. And of course, the vitamin, the mineral, and the like protein. Now, there are other amino acids that are significant to this as well. And I should have put that in here too, which Lynn, make a note. We should put protofood in here, which I did not do. And now, why would I put RNA as of the priority 4 products? Why would I ever put that in? Because RNA is the keeper, the holder of the blueprint of the DNA. And what happens to our DNA as we age? If we do get some kind of breakdown in our tissues, Lyme disease, where does it go? Joints, brain, endocrine system, everywhere. Heart, thank you. So we do not want these DNA factors fraying at the edges. And RNA, taking this substance from yeast out of Germany, the best in the world, is the key. Now, George Goodhart gave us a great pearl. So I said that 80% of thyroxine is inactive. All right, we need to convert it. We need to make it active. But then once it's active, you've got to get it into the cellular network. You've got to get it into the tissues. What delivers it? According to him, very true, ribonucleic acid. That is, as vitamin F is to calcium, diffusion into tissues, so is RNA of T3 into tissues. There's the key. Now, why did I say also consider some others? I did put an herb in there. I'm not a big user of herbs for most of my protocols, but I always include it. But Antranex, whenever you think of thyroid, you've got to think of liver. Whenever you think of liver, you've got to think of circulation and toxicity. Antranex is your key. It's the Dr. Lee and others considered it the detoxifying hormone. Here's another endocrine organ, the liver. The detoxifying hormone for the liver. There it is in a natural form. And we know, for instance, in Graves' disease, we know that when any organ, but especially the thyroid, becomes toxic in any way, hypo, do you think hypothyroid people aren't toxic, don't have a toxic thyroid? They do. This is your key product. And of course, Coleus forte is well known for hypothyroidism, weight loss, lowering blood pressure. I could get the book out, Kerry Bones' book, which you can get, I think, online through Standard Process Corporate. My favorite book, and where is it? I don't have it here. What's the name of it? Anyway, Very important. And Coleus forte is a great product for that related to thyroid. And then your E-manganese, which is this is a desiccated product now. This is not a protomorphogen or or a cytosol. This is desiccated anterior pituitary with manganese. Now you'll see why that's significant later. It's not a product that's used a lot, but when needed, it's great. Now, what about, as I say, the parathyroid? If I were to give a product for the parathyroid, all of these people, clients, you've got them. They're coming to you. They're calling you with issues. I have too much calcium in my blood, so they're going to cut my parathyroids out. Well, that is an issue because first of all, they don't have enough vitamin D putting the calcium into the blood. So it is calling for the parathyroids to overproduce. So how do we speak to those parathyroids? And this is a key product, has parathyroid in it. It's a very expensive product to make. They do not make money on this product. How effective is this? Any calcium regulation from broken bones. You want to heal a broken bone along with calcifood, you give them Calma Plus, especially in children where the bone plates have not been fully established in younger children, broken bones. And you only have to give them one a day. You don't need much. Adults is two twice a day would be maximum. But if you give with Cataplex D for these people with too much calcium in their blood, this product and D, it will balance out. They don't have to be cutting into the thyroid gland of a person, removing pieces of it and parts of it, essential parts. So, and remember, this ties in with bone calcium as well. So the regulation of calcium has different aspects, specifically related to bones and specifically related to soft tissue. And then parotid. Now, why would I put parotid in there? First of all, you've got clients that say, oh, I can't have iodine. I'm allergic to iodine. Well, they're not allergic. They're sensitive to iodine, but they're not allergic. So this relates to whether a person is truly absorbing thyroxine. What? How could that be? Well, here it is from Dr. Lee. Embryologically, we have evidence of relationship between the thyroid and the parotid, via the vestigial, in utero, thyroid glossal duct, a structure which now may be observed with a possible understanding. Yeah, he was so careful how he worded things. He knew what the heck was going on here, of its importance. Generation after generation with terrible food, chemicals given to children, whether it's vaccines, mercury, chemicals in foods, milk that is not really a food. All of this over these generations, over these decades, that's why you see so many thyroid issues in this country, especially, not as much in the rest of the world. It's because this, over the time, some things break down generation after generation. Well, there's a duct between the parotid for tagging and absorbing and the thyroid. Oh, tagging and absorbing what? Thyroxine. It is interesting in this respect to note that the thyroid hormone is most compatible with oral administration. And here is Lee knew through his work with Harrower that just giving these substances directly into the bloodstream is not going to do it. The body must tag. And you know, beloved George Goodhart taught us this so much. You've got to chew your supplements. At least taste them so that the parotid can tag the substance and then utilize it. Give the person their money's worth. There it is. And that's why this is in here. Do you know how many times I've had calls, practitioners, Joe, I have done everything. I cannot get this thyroid right in this person. I can't get rid of the Hashimoto's. I can't get rid of the Graves. It's because they don't have the right piece, the right factor that's going to bring it all together. I'm not saying all the time, though in my opinion, anybody with Hashimoto's has this, it would be arrogant to say birth defect, but it is. They never got this vestigial thyroglossal duct, never developed. It never did. Now that's gospel according to Joseph, so you can prove me wrong. But when you add this in, that people aren't responding to your program, you're going to see. So why isn't my thing moving here? Okay.
And Joseph, it's Lynn. Before you move off that slide, just clarification, we forgot to add the plus after the prolamine iodine. So you're definitely speaking of the new return to Dr. Lee's formula, prolamine iodine plus.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, so basically what is the plus? Well, what they did with the prolamine iodine is they added sea kelp, which it didn't have in there before, which I thought was a great move to get more of the natural. Remember, Dr. Lee said there is more that we don't know about food substances and animal substances than we do know. The human discovery can only find so many things, but there's so many other important factors. So these lifestyle changes, of course, you can go through, and I'll mention them as we go on quicker, but these are my basic how I approach people, especially in relationship, all endocrine function, but especially the thyroid. And again, I wanted to mention, though, my favorite book, and it's called, there's a couple of books that are my favorite, but in my top 5, the Products Bulletin through Saline River Press carries this. On page 141, that's where I got this. There are more little pearls in here that as you get these books, and just take a page and read it. Read what Dr. Lee was thinking. It's truly amazing. He gives you these very simple, look at this. It was 2 sentences, 1 sentence, 2 sentences. Amazing what he implicated with very few words. Here is out of this book. What did Dr. Lee think about Cataplex F tablets? Again, from the Products Bulletin. Oh, it relates to, well, we know metabolism, but what does that mean? Okay, hypothyroidism. Oh, tachycardia? What? You mean you can help tachycardia with Cataplex F? According to Lee, according to me. Tremors, people that shake all the time. And weight, I think you meant to say weight loss, probably, LOSS, but that's okay. Skin conditions.
I copied it from the book, so I'm not sure what he meant.
Oh, well, it could have been a typo. Yeah, it could have been a typo in the book. Yeah.
Typo, yeah. Yeah. I'll look at it though.
Yeah. All of your skin conditions, dry skin, acne, especially sunburns, fever blisters, all of that. It's vitamin F, hair integrity. And I have said this, falling hair in women is a vitamin F deficiency. Graying, coarseness, thinning. Now, vitamin F, just remember, is the vitamin for the thyroid. For every organ, gland, and tissue, you got to think of the vitamin, mineral, protein. What are the implications of vitamin F related to the thyroid? Wow, hair, yeah. Thyroid, liver, and hair. If you got hair problems, you've got a liver issue, more than likely. Could be a protein issue, of course. Hair is protein and thyroid, especially in age as women and men go through menopause and andropause. Don't forget men. Don't forget us guys that our hair's falling out and getting thin. Prostate disease. Listen, I've used a lot of things for prostate, dribbling, night urination. But sometimes you have to take a lot of F. But nobody has ever said that didn't work, Joe. It may not be the only thing, but it's key. Because what happens in the male prostate is that tissue gets fibrotic. And where was the thing that we said here? It was just one word. How significant was that? Where is that thing? Here it is. Here it is, everyone. You see this little bullet that you probably passed over? Fibrosis. This comes right from Dr. Lee. Any fibrotic tissue, breast, uterus, anywhere in the body, and prostate in men. Such a key. And John Courtney taught me, well, Joe, the prostate thickens from the inside out, not the outside in. And there it is. And there is that need for vitamin F. Sure, you can use substances that bring down the inflammation, but you gotta fix the problem. You can't just keep throwing mud and trying to reduce inflammation. That's very significant. I'm not undermining that. But I'm telling you, you've got to get to the reason why is this happening in older men. It's the vitamin F deficiency. And they're creating too much fibrotic tissue in their body. You know, the other thing that men show this is related to, you ever see these guys that get, they get a lot of plugging up of their lymphatic system, and they get these cysts, these big cysts on their head? It's mainly men. I haven't seen it too much in women. That's a vitamin F deficiency. So, and if you get a gentleman that has those and they have prostate issues, then you know where you need to go. And look at him with vitamin F. Autonomic unbalance. What? Yes. Yes. Your key to autonomic balance is pituitary, yes, but where after the pituitary, how does the body give the final responsibility is to the thyroid from the pituitary. There is this order of guidance, of control, of regulation from the above down. Autonomic unbalance. And what is the key supplement to help with that? F. Pyloric spasms. Oh, all these stomach issues, these ileocecal valve issues, these colon issues. Here it is. Nervous stomach, vitamin F. Wow. So these are more from kind of a repeat of that. And then my key insights as far as vitamin F. Yeah, I already explained the fibrotic tissue, inflammation. And remember, the vitamin F works in coordination with other substances. Oh, K2, we know about that. It's big. But don't give them K2. You've got to have K. K2 synthetically isn't going to do anything. You've got to give them K. Give them the whole. This is chlorophyll, by the way. This is cruciferous complete. Write it in your notes there if you're writing. Just don't give them synthetic K2. That's going to provide some of that guidance of where calcium goes and doesn't goes. But what is the organ that goes with this? Is the spleen for mineral regulation. Highly unknown. Dr. Lee talked about it. Calcium distribution from the blood into the tissues. Too much, not good. Too little, tragic. And what else does F do? Now, we've had this discussion about why did Lee, after making beta food, make AF beta food shortly after? because the F helps to expedite the movement of the fat molecules and organize in an organized manner, so there's better flow. So I'm not going to go into that, but that's why if you were always wondering why did he put F? Why didn't he put AC beta food? Because that fatty acid, vitamin F fatty acid, helps with that. What did Dr. Lee think about thyroid in relationship to different conditions? Oh, here's one on cancer. It seems, get this everyone, it seems that cancer only becomes possible. Wait, are you serious? It's only possible? There's only one thing. After the endocrine systems become unbalanced or weakened. Wow. How's that for a statement, huh? Thyroid function is essential. So in my book, you can interpret it. He says, if your thyroid is not functioning, if you got someone that's had cancer or tends to get rebound from cancer, and you're not working with their thyroid, you're missing a big piece, according to this genius, which he was. This guy knew what he was talking about. Thyroid function is essential to defense against cancer. Your clients come in and say, listen, I have a lot of cancer in my family. How can I, here it is, balance thyroid function? The thyroxine acts to release determinant factors. Well, what does that mean? It means it releases the factors that brings a good outcome. That's what determinant means. It determines how it's going to go. And it's releasing these factors, which he knew in part, and a lot he didn't know, but he knew the truth, the principle. Protomorphogens from the absorbed reserves in connective tissue. So that's a whole other hour discussion about protomorphogens. But what he's saying is you got to give these people thiotrophine. If they want to prevent cancer or they've had cancer or their family, got to get some of that into them. What else did he say? The function of vitamin F complex. Here we are back to the vitamin for that gland that does so much in the body, is to cooperate with thyroxine. Wow. To make it acceptable to the tissues. You feel like, people just aren't receiving these nutrients. Here's the key. What a pearl. Vitamin F. We feel by reason of the vitamin F effect of catalyzing insulator films. Remember I talked to you about that vitamin F, those fatty acids protecting nerve endings, but all tissues. There it is. This is what he's saying. Vitamin F plays a key part to protect the determinant, without which, if you don't have that, you're going to release toxic poisons and histamines into the system. By ever-present tissue enzymes, and enzymes are related to that too. Yeah. This can be seen to be all important. Very gracious way of saying, look, guys and gals, you got to be taking this. This is the basis of all well-known, this is the basis of the well-known carcinogenic effect of vitamin F complex. Not only did he say it, but it was in the annual review of biochemistry. So you can look that up on the historical archives. That's where I found it. So let's look at the mineral here as we're reaching our full hour and we're almost to the end. What about iodine? I said it's 2/3 It's such an integral part of normal thyroid function. And I highly recommend, again, Salim Review Forever Press being such a great resource for all these books that I teach out of, is Vermont Folk Medicine, or it's just called Folk Medicine now. V.E. Irons. You've got to get into what he teaches about vinegar and iodine. It's so simple. I just read an article to my group. They have found now that for the COVID, for people that work closely like dental hygienists and dentists and other people that if they wash the person's mouth out with an iodine solution, 2 ounces of water and 4 drops of an iodine solution, they rinse it out, no COVID transmission. No COVID transmission. Now you don't drink it, you spit it out. This is recent. The University of Connecticut. I can send you the article. Shoot me an email, I'll send it to you. Something so simple, but the significance of iodine as a disinfectant, of course, we all grew up, right? Mercurochrome, remember that? Of course, it was iodine and mercury, which they took off the market. So, but you know how many cuts I've had in my life on my knees and legs and feet and arms? And my mother so after that was gone and she read more, then it was vinegar. Everything was vinegar, from poison ivy to any scratches. That was it. So what does the thyroid do? The thyroid cells are literally, oops, let me just mute everybody out here. Okay. The thyroid cells are so specialized for one thing, one main thing, extracting iodine from the blood and incorporate the iodine into thyroid hormones. What? Yeah. That's how important iodine. And I know other teachers teach that some people with Hashimoto's, you can't give them iodine. That is incorrect. I have never been able to help a thyroid client, especially low thyroid, without giving them iodine. Now, they're right in what they're saying, that person may be oversensitized, but I've already given you that pearl. You already know why that's happening, because they have a part of their body that is not functioning. It is not sending iodine to where it needs to go. I mean, thyroxine absorption. That's that parotid piece. The other thing that iodine is so significant, in the cellular network, the 4 halogens, primary, fluorine, chlorine, and bromine. Do you know the American way of life is loaded with fluorine, chlorine, and bromine? In the cellular network, do you want these toxins, these toxic chemicals, these molecular structures that imbalance the body in your cellular network? No. If you have enough iodine, and fortunately the way nature works is iodine is the predominant halogen. So you're preventing these other poisons from entering the cellular network. Now, I could give you, I could do a whole hour just on these 3 things and how it destroys a person's life and their bodies. I'll give you one. The pineal gland, when fluoride enters the body, there's one part of the body that it targets, and that's the pineal gland and that part of the brain. It calcifies it and destroys it. And please don't give me this thing, well, it's naturally occurring in water. Oh, yes, it is. So little compared to the amount that people get in drinking water. So let's not play that game. Let's understand what is true, what the principle is. And of course, anyone as they age, what do elderly people say to me? Joe, I'm drying up. Yes, that is an iodine deficiency. And the interesting thing, if you look into it, so many people are afraid that iodine is going to give me, overstimulate me, or I'm allergic. Do you know that early findings, Dr. Lee taught that even in hyperthyroid, you can give iodine and settle the thyroid down. Hot flashes. Iodine is very significant for hot flashes. So, and people with personality issues. Wow. Virus infections and fibrotic lesions. And you know me, when people say, well, I have, these lesions. Iodine, turmeric, vitamin F. There's your triad. I didn't write it in here. Any fibrotic lesion, any abnormal growth of tissue, which is precancerous. Cancers form because there's been something that went before it. You just don't create trophoblast cells out of the air. They form out of fibrotic lesions and other imbalances too. Abnormal tissue. So here is the other key with vitamin F. Isn't it amazing? Amazing how the principle, the vitamin, mineral, and like protein principle is so easy and significant. Why isn't this thing moving? Okay. Oh, I know how to do this. I learned this on the, okay. So I'm not going to go through this because we're almost into our end time here. The Barnes thyroid test. Lynn, would you like to say something about this, just to review a little bit?
Just that this is a great way to, take a look at the thyroid from a clinical point of view. And if anybody would like a copy of either of these tests, as a reminder, you're welcome to email me. I put my email in the chat box, and I'll do it again, and I'll send you the full page on it. But just to take the temperature and see, and I could give you some guidance too as to, the mercury thermometer versus the basal digital thermometer. But it's just a way, if the first morning temperature in the body, if it's very low, it's below that, that's evidence of thyroid imbalance.
And you shouldn't even get out of bed, right? You should lay there and just put and you need a mercury thermometer. So don't use the other. Do you use the others, Lynn?
I do, and Monica and I have been testing them out. And so okay. I've found that if I get a basal digital thermometer, the basal one is the one that you use for fertility, so it's much more sensitive to temperature, but you need to stick it in your armpit and keep it there for 10 minutes and then turn it on. And then and I find if I stick it in my pit, and keep it there for 10 minutes, and along with, and then turn it on, I'll get the same reading as my mercury thermometer, which you want to keep in your armpit for 10 minutes before reading it. So
and you can still get mercury thermometers, right?
They're hard to get. Saline River Press carried them, and I'm not sure if they still do. So okay. They're much harder to find, and thermometers in all are harder to find now in the COVID experience. So,
yeah, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what about the iodine patch test, which this has been
so
really.
The iodine patch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. I was just going to say it's been tried and true. Yes, test. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so these directions were written up. Saline River Press used to have the iodine rollers, but I'm not sure that they still do. This was written up when we were teaching an online course for telehealth classes, so that people could direct their clients how to go get the iodine tincture. So you can go to the pharmacy or to online and purchase an iodine tincture. You want to get the 2%, and it must have the red coloring. And so this pertains back. Somebody wrote me in the chat box saying, when you were talking about swishing the iodine around in the mouth, they were concerned
the oral
that
rinse.
the brown
Yeah, you would have to ask the
yes.
pharmacist about that. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but I get the uncolored one, right?
Yes,
Iodine in that
one.
case, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but then you paint 1 inch by 1 inch square, 2 inches by 1 inch, on your inside of your inner arm. And you fill that in, and then you check the patch every couple of hours throughout the day. It's good to put it on in the morning so that you can keep a better eye on it throughout the day. And then the more your body needs the iodine, the more quickly it'll absorb the iodine tincture and the patch will disappear. So if I wrote, as I wrote there, if the iodine disappears in less than 8 hours, you're in great need of iodine. If it disappears in less than 24, you're still in need of some iodine. But if it stays on your arm for 24 hours is kind of the ideal scene of iodine sufficiency, that you have evidence of that iodine still remaining on your arm. And as I wrote up, it shouldn't wash off in the shower, but only shower if necessary, and don't scrub that, of course, the iodine off. But that's a great way. And then you can start to introduce the prolamine iodine plus into people's diet, and then they can recheck themselves every couple weeks and see how it's lengthening the time that the iodine patch stays on.
Yes. So thank you, Lynn. And yeah, that's good. So the need for thiotrophine, this is under this section in the products bulletin. Again, Saline River Press carries that. Here is again what he talked about, very similar to vitamin F, a lot of these. But remember that I've gotten calls over the years for sweating. Everyone thinks it's adrenal, but it is thyroid. That is a low indication, of a high thyroid pattern. So weight loss, vertigo. So remember this, a lot of people have vertigo. Think, if you're not getting the results, think about working with their thyroid a little bit. So now this is from my new book, as you can see, and some of you have it, and in my opinion, all of you should have it. And this is Graves' disease. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this, but I want to go through. So once you have Graves' disease, that is a toxic thyroid, and toxic thyroid is Antranex, just so you know, right? Talked about that a little earlier. But then the most important, this is why this is the #1 product, is that now the thyroid, now it's an autoimmune issue, either hyper or hypo, the Hashimoto's pattern, or the hyper. Now the immune system is literally attacking the system. Now, as I said, by the end of September, I'm going to be teaching my webinars, and you must have your book to be on my webinars. That's your ticket to my webinars as of the end of September, toward the end. And you will see that I will, go into some of these in more detail, and we'll talk about the action steps. If the thyroid is an organ that epitomizes rhythm, what would be the best exercise? Walking. And you'll see this a lot in my book as an action step. People should be walking. I read an article to my HSR group from a cardiologist, and they're determined now that anyone after 50, if they want to maintain healthy lifestyle, integrity of their body and rhythms, they need to be walking an hour a day. It's not worth it not getting out and walking. It's not worth it just working out like a fiend 2 or 3 times a week. The body understands. It functions based on circadian and earth rhythms. And this is how we honor it. This is how we cooperate with it. This is how we give the body what it's looking for. So, and I mentioned other things too. And a lot of the protocols, I have a quote. Well, let's just read this one. The benefits of iodine administration. Now, remember what I said. We're talking about high thyroid, are widely reported in hyperthyroidism. This was before. This was what all these doctors were working with as these synthetic hormones came into being and other drugs. This is what they were working with. Favorable response in suspected cases being considered in a pathogenomic sign. This, in other words, how the body is responding. This effect, we believe, should be extended to include hyperactivity of the adrenals and pituitary. So I want to stop there, because remember what I talked about in the priority of how the endocrine system works. Oh, there's your pituitary, but why the adrenals? If the adrenals are not supported, if they are not fed, then it loosens the reins, so to speak, on the thyroid, and the thyroid goes berserk, goes haywire. So you might ask, what did Dr. Lee recommend for Graves' disease? Cataplex C, not ascorbic acid. You're not going to accomplish this with ascorbic acid. Here it is. And that's why it's in here. And then, of course, the last one here is anytime you think of if there's thyroid problems that you cannot, of course you can work with pituitary. Of course you can work with hypothalamus. But don't forget the brother or sister below that. And that's the thymus. That's the thymus. So I'm not going to go into these others, but I would make a comment that this bugleweed motherwort for Graves' disease works 100% of the time. I have never not had it work or have other doctors tell me that didn't work, Joe. But the key here is, as we said, this was on the other hour, you can't just give someone herbs. You've got to give them the nutrients that go with those. You have to feed the organ, gland, or tissue with these substances. But then here we are with the herbs that help with regulation. They help with that balancing. It's known as herbal medicine. It's a natural form of medicine. And you have to watch once you put person on this instead of the drugs. I've done it several times with practitioners right here in Colorado. And I don't know why hyperthyroidism is more common. It could be because we're so iodine deficient here. I don't know. But then you just discontinue it. So, but let's finish this beautiful quote. This effect, we believe, should extend it to include the hyperactivity of the adrenals and pituitary. This is especially true during menopause. Hot flashes, everyone. As well as a possible factor in menstruation disorders and with the increase of thyroid activity in pregnancy, particularly the third trimester. Now there is a pearl of wisdom that nobody knows. When should thyroid support really be emphasized with these other endocrine glands? Third trimester. It becomes an important consideration in this category as well. Wow. My book is full of these pearls. And here is the price. As I say, I don't charge for any of my lectures or services. My relationship with Standard Process West and Mark Anderson has provided me with a good wherewithal financially in my career, and so this price is very reasonable, more than reasonable. So mind melds, many of you have said you want to mind meld with me. Well, you know, that's an expensive process. So, so here we get into the hypothyroid. Inability to work under mental stress. So when you do your intake of clients, add that in. How you doing in this COVID? Are you able to work? Oh, I got the kids here. I'm trying to work. And, you know, my husband's home or my wife's home. Here it is, thyroid. And as I say, particularly in men, weight gain is, and again, skin, hair, low temperature, cold hands and feet, and tingling too. Don't forget that. Here it is, numbness. People are asking me all the time about all kinds of numbness and tingling sensations. But they have forgotten the key piece, which is support thyroid, thytrophin and prolamine iodine, if you want to keep it simple. And of course, the ridged fingernails. Look at people's fingernails. You'll see anyone after 60 has got these ridges, and they can be brittle. So I had this one case of the thyroid, and see why they call it the butterfly organ? See it? It's just like a butterfly, right? And this was a case I worked with, and I presented this at back to school a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago now. This was a practitioner up in Wyoming, and she called. She goes, Joe, I've been working with this thing for years, so I'll show you the protocol. Now, she did this off and on for a few years, then she really got into it. But when she was the antibodies were so out of control, almost 1,000. She could not function. She was home in bed. She was not practicing. And then after, it was shorter time than 2008. I'm not sure why that's there, but it went down. Now, is it normal range yet? No. And I said to her, well, let's keep working with it. And she said, Joe, I have my life back. I'm fine with it here. And I said, well, you know, if you want to, I'll help you. She got a 90% improvement. Yes, it took some time. I don't think that was the right. I think I worked with her 3 years, but took time. And again, here's the protocol from my book. Now, again, we know that Hashimoto's or Graves is an autoimmune. You have to remove the burden from that organ, gland, or tissue if you want it to survive and thrive. And here it is, 6 a day. Here's the iodine piece. Now, in her case, she could not take, she was one of these iodine sensitive people. She couldn't take it. Oh no, it wasn't the iodine. I remember now. It was prolamine iodine. That mineral is bound to a protein, and it was a maize or corn protein. She claimed she was sensitive to corn. She said allergic, but it was more of a sensitivity in my book. And so I just used the thyroid complex, which has bacopa, ashwagandha, and an iodine source from the sea source. So, okay.
Bladderwrack.
Bladderwrack. I can never remember that herb. Thanks. And she did really well. Now, why did I use calcium lactate? Why is that such a priority here? Because she was also having skin issues and other issues. Her thyroid was not regulating calcium in her body. And that's why I used it. And I think it's true in all cases of Hashimoto's. They have blood serum calcium issues. And then, of course, Immuplex to get that immune system regulated, self-regulated. So this is going to self-regulate the specific gland or organ or tissue, the protomorphogen. This is going to get the immune system back so something speaks to it to say, hey, take it easy here. We got you. This is all balanced out. So, and then also consider, as we talked about, some Hashimoto's clients do really well on anterior pituitary, really well. Now, and then of course we talk about the parotid and then the liver. We already talked about toxicity, that it even in Graves or Hashimoto's, this is thyroid toxicity tied in with liver. So there it is. So let's look at the quote here as we finish up. Oh, we've gone over time here. Costal cartilage pain, chronic constipation, elevated cholesterol, or miscarriages. There's a pearl, right? What do they do with older women when they get pregnant? Anywhere from 38 up, they put them on thyroxine, especially third trimester. Cries easily, people that cry easily. Look at all of these pearls: lethargy, muscular weakness, low ambition, dry or cracked skin in heels and feet. Look at people's bodies, observe, and I gave you that other list. Sensations of cold, weight gain, loss of lateral third eyebrow, and edema of eyelids. And this is Dr. Charles and his contact. He's a very famous AK teacher in New York City, who he and I worked together when I was the rep there. He had the largest attendance of AK classes of any doctor in history. So wonderful teacher, and his information is tremendous. Oh, again, there's that quote that I talked to you about, the parotid. I didn't know I put that in there. That's great. So again, if you want to get my book, that's great. I would I'd be honored to have you have it and to be with me for the rest of my life, as I spend the rest of my life teaching you how to create these protocols, dosing, the outcomes of those protocols, and some of the snags maybe that are in there, the challenges. The last thing I wanted to mention was Saline River Press now has compiled an ebook of one of my teachers, and her name is Judith Akava. And here is, as an example, under or overactive thyroid by her. Listen, you will get more out of this. You could just read an article a month and learn more about the different areas that she addresses than anywhere else, really. Now, we have plenty of teachers at Standard Process West, and that's great. And through connections with Standard Process West, that's wonderful. But if you want to have something that you can just read over and over again, this is what you should get. For $75, it's really underpriced. This is great. And so I highly recommend. And if you want to review everything, some of the things that I've said today, I've tried to give you things that are outside of the box of what other people teach. So, and then as I say, adjuvant protocols for healing. Here is what you can use as a supportive role to your main modality. What you primarily do is you can use this as a desk reference. You can use this as a guide in other protocols that you've learned. Maybe there's something else in there that you're not getting that 100%. You can look through the protocols and apply those. Maybe you have them on wrong things, and that the only way to tell that is to use the heart sound recorder. So I went 8 minutes over, but if anybody has some questions on anything that I've said today, I'd be glad to answer your questions.
Joseph, before
Yes.
People might unmute, there was a question in the chat box asking if can kidney cysts be helped with iodine?
Yes, any cyst in the body. So let me just mute everybody out. Any cyst anywhere, iodine. The triad is iodine, Cataplex F, Usually we use the Cataplex F tablets. There's a little iodine in it. And then turmeric. Any cyst at all, yes. Because what is a cyst? It's fibrotic tissue. It's tissue that is starting, cells that are starting to accumulate. And what can that turn into? God forbid, cancer. Any of these cysts are fibrotic tissue. So but there's no need to fear that. Apply the nutrition. And of course, something like Arginex would also be good, or renotrophin, because it involves the kidneys. You know, maybe the kidneys cannot overcome this because the immune system is attacking them. So there's where you need the protomorphogen. And that's why I like Renifood is my favorite, because it's half renotrophin and half Arginex, which is the cleaner. A lot of times cysts will form because of toxicity too. So Renifood would be 6 a day, even 9 a day for a while, okay? And certainly remember that thyroid, heart, kidney, remember that as well. So you may want to check the person's heart, and you're thinking, geez, Joe, it's a kidney cyst. Check their heart, check their thyroid. These triads are known to be, and these in the triad, these things are related to each other. They are specific findings from almost 100 years. So these aren't things we just pulled out of the sky somewhere. We have found these things to be true. So, okay. So, what's your other question, Lynn?
Well, someone wanted you to speak your favorite books, but I don't know if you.
Okay, yeah, I can give you my top 5. Of course, my number 1 favorite book is this guy, Joseph Andel. No, here are my 5 favorite books, okay? You want to write this down. Is the Therapeutic Food Manual, the Products Bulletins, and this book, Conversations in Nutrition. Vitamin News, and what's my other one?
Yours. That makes 5.
Well, yeah, but I would say the other one that Saline River Press and Mark and Stephanie, I believe, put together. It's called From Soil to Supplements. There are so many pearls in here, and that's what you want. You want these little that's what I've tried to bring you, these little tidbits of information that, wow, I didn't know that the parotid relates to thyroxine absorption and utilization. I didn't know that there was this duct that if it's deformed or not working, that no matter what you give them for thyroxine, it's not going to have its full potential, you know, of care. So those are my 5. There might have been one that I missed, but yes, definitely. So. Okay, anybody else?
Then I would just say, anybody else want to unmute yourself if you have a question?
I have a question.
Yes. Okay, excuse me.
Go ahead, and then, yeah.
Yeah, this is Ray Woods. I put
Hi, Ray.
Hi there. I put a little question in the chat. Just curious, do we have to be concerned with too much iodine? And is there a way to really test for that?
Right. Well, whenever the one true sign of too much iodine. So, listen, we only recommend. So the prolamine iodine plus is 3 milligrams a capsule. So Dr. Lee said, and it was the same with just the prolamine iodine, is no more than 9 milligrams a day. Now that's a lot. So 3 milligrams to 6 is where I go. Now, if you look at other countries, for instance, Japan, that there's hardly any breast cancer, any breast cysts. You go on, if you don't believe me, check it out. they they use 12 to 15 milligrams a day of iodine. Now, we're not, genetically, made to withstand all of that, probably. But Ray, here's the key. If you take iodine and you get a little heart palpitation, believe me, it'll go away in 30 to 60 minutes. It'll go away. Just drink some water. Just dilute the bloodstream. Just flush it out. But if you get that, then you know that it's too much.
So if you're taking that prolamine iodine plus just one a day, then your really chances of getting too much is very slim.
It's very slim.
Okay.
Now, why medically they're always saying that you need only a certain amount of micrograms? I don't understand it, because what I taught you about the halogens, you've got to have enough iodine to flush those other, to keep those other halogens out of your cellular network, because they're all competing for the same cell site. So do you want fluoride in your cells, or do you want iodine? That's the choice. Yeah.
If I could just report something really interesting. My husband had a high TSH. This started back in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor wanted him to get another thyroid test. So he did that. In early 2018, it went up a little bit more. And so, I didn't have all of your triad or your suggestions for thyroid at that time, but did put him on Thytrophin PMG and thyroid complex. Took another test early 2020, and the TSH started coming down. Right. He continued to be diligent, take the Thytrophin PMG, and just this July 2020, thyroid stimulating hormone is within normal limits. He had a consult with his doctor online, who all she said was, "Oh, good, glad that's normal." Didn't ask him why or what he'd been doing. So he volunteered the information.
Yeah.
And sadly, she said, "I really don't like those supplements. I think you need to get rid of those, and would like you to take another thyroid test in a few months. And if you need some thyroid medication, I'll be happy to prescribe that." So very sad to hear, but she said she's quite worried about that, because she did have somebody taking what they called a natural supplement. They told her they were taking iodine, and the person got cancer, and it just blew out from there. But I think there's a lot of unfortunate supplements out there that are called natural in health food stores, and maybe they are not as pure as they should be.
Yeah, well, Ray, you've made a lot of great points. And first of all, iodine, I can show you studies that iodine prevents cancer. It doesn't cause cancer. The other thing is we forgive them. Her awareness, what do they get in medical school? 10 hours of nutrition?
Sure.
In 6 years. So, it's not what they use. It's not their tools. These are our tools.
Sure.
This is what we do. And listen, if it works, then the proof is in that. If she's not willing, or they're not willing to look at it, well, that's up to them. And this is why we need to choose wisely who medically we go to and relate to. This is why nurse practitioners are much better people than your standard old-fashioned medical doctor, because they are not going to allow you to take most anything. So, Thytrophin PMG is the most, the FDA is unrelenting about testing for hormone in Thytrophin PMG. The standard product's been plagued, and they can never find hormone in it. But they say, well, I can't understand. It works for these people. Why doesn't it have hormone? Because they don't understand the rest of the story of the protomorphogen and the immune system. My last thought to you is, remember that as a man, remember what I said about men and their thyroids. And you've got to add in that vitamin F factor, okay?
Okay.
So the two things I would comment is add in some Cataplex F tablets or vitamin F from fish oils, you know, the tuna oil, whatever, as long as it's a form of vitamin F, which a lot of oils do, but the F tablets is the most absorbable, and people get the most utilization out of that. And then,
Okay.
you know, with the high TSH, again, you've got to think of what is the regulator of TSH, and that's the hypothalamus gland. So don't use the hypothalamus because you don't want to stimulate it. You want to self-regulate it. So that's the other one to use. But listen, in what you've done, if he's normal, I wouldn't fix it. I wouldn't
Okay.
fix it. But
Well,
how
I can
does
tell you he is very happy. And he said, guess what? I think I'm not going to take this doctor's recommendation. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
That's right. That's right. Well, that's a very wise decision, and I agree with him. And of course, you know, we all go through cycles, and if he's getting into that andropause phase or is in it, men, as I say, they can become couch, but they lose interest in life. That's the thing to watch for in a man. You know, I'm retiring. And what happens to men that just retire and give up? They die within 5 years. Now, I'm not saying that about your husband at all, but I'm just
Sure,
saying
sure.
you've as clinicians, we have to talk to them and listen to them and watch them. And then as we understand, we can give them that wisdom. If someone's losing interest in life, why is that and how can we help them? It's not just maybe therapy is good, but maybe there's something else just nutritionally we can help them with. So now remember, if you're concerned about the amount of iodine, there are other lower iodine products that Standard Process has.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
So good.
um,
Well, thank
okay.
you so much.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
great story. Great. I love those stories.
Joseph?
Yes.
Hi, it's Sue Massey.
Hey.
I wanted to comment about the iodine. I myself was diagnosed with Hashimoto's a little over probably about 2 years ago.
Mhm.
And same thing, medical doctor, she said, you have to go on this, you know, these medications. I said, not going to happen. And then just not too long ago, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. So I was following Dr. David Brownstein, and that's why I recommend to my patients all the time, which is Iodine: Why You Can't Live Without It. It's just a fantastic book. But the Prolamine Iodine Plus is phenomenal because 3 milligrams really is not a lot. I was taking 9 milligrams a day, 3 of them a day.
Sure.
And you know when you're taking too much when you start getting the shakes. You know, you feel a little shaky, then then I would advise.
Yeah, that's your body's telling you that's enough for now. Yeah.
Dr. David Brownstein recommends 10 milligrams to 20 milligrams a day. I'm not
How
telling
much? What's
10 to
what
20 milligrams a day.
10? Ooh.
Yeah, and I'm not advising anybody to do that, but I'm just saying when you have issues, and especially, thyroid issues like you were saying, but between the protomorphogen and the iodine and other things that I'm doing, I just got cleared Tuesday, no breast cancer.
Oh, Sue, that's
So I haven't shared that with you before, but I just
Bravo.
that is wonderful.
what
Yay,
we're
Yeah,
yay,
yeah.
yay.
Thanks, guys.
Yay.
I always feel like God has to give me something so I can tell people about it. You don't
Right.
know unless you go through it. If you say, this is what happened, Hashimoto's, 2 years ago, then going into breast cancer, it's just amazing. And I don't accept that, my mother had it 3 times. I just don't believe because she had it, I'm going to have it. I definitely believe it's nutritional. And thank you so much for this class today because it's just hit so many nails on the head.
Mm-hmm.
Which is awesome, which is in your book, which I have right here in front of me, which I absolutely love.
And the other one you want to think about is the Cruciferous Complete, because
I've been taking that. Thank you. I've been taking 6 a day of that religiously. That was one. What was the other one?
Thymex, Mammary, Thymex, iodine, and Cruciferous. That's in my book.
Cruciferous totally changed the scope of the breast cancer. No doubt about
Right,
it.
because what that product, and there's a study done on that. You can get that, and I'll talk about that at some point in one of my classes. But it reduces the bad estrogen and increases the good.
Right.
You
And
know,
at 63, that's real important.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Because now you're talking about 20 more years and good bone health. You can't
20.
lose all that estrogen. You've got to have some estrogen. So.
My mom just turned 97 yesterday, so I'm hoping for 30.
Wow, bless her heart. That is great.
Yeah.
Great.
And one
Well,
of the
you have good genetic possibility.
my dad lived to be 93. Anyway, the 2 ounces of water with the 4 drops of the iodine solution. I love and use Nascent, Nascent iodine. Some people
Oh.
like Lugol's, but for that rinse of the mouth, for the whole COVID-19 thing, really works great.
Yeah, Lugol's is great for topical and oral rinse. Uh, the thing about Lugol's internally is, which is fine to take, but it's not bound to a protein, and so
Right.
you got to take a lot more of it. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's only micrograms. It's tiny, tiny, tiny.
Yeah.
But like I say, don't be afraid of the Polamine Iodine Plus. It's a phenomenal product.
It
Especially,
is.
like you said, hot flashes. How many people, women I see with hot flashes?
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank
Well,
you.
in my book, The Hot Flashes Protocol, I give you Dr. Lee's, which I think is the reason for hot flashes. I'm not going to go into it now, but it's true. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joseph. You're just
You're welcome. Yeah, and blessings to you. That is such.
Changed my heart. I was going to say, but you've changed my heart. I meant to say you've changed my life. With the HSR is just a phenomenal, phenomenal tool.
Great, great.
Thank
Well, you've been a great supporter, and I'm glad you've had this wonderful outcome. That's good. Good. You're in the club now of survivors.
Yay!
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Of which I am one of. So yes. Anyone else? We can go to 2 if somebody wants to keep going here. 4 more minutes. Otherwise, that's good.
Joseph?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Go ahead, Carol.
Thank you. Is goiter
Oh,
caused
yes.
by either Hashimoto's or Graves'? Is goiter a separate thing?
No. Here is the reason. I'm so glad you brought that up. And Lynn, we should put that in here somewhere about goiter. Maybe it is in here somewhere in my.
Okay, got it.
Make a note. So, thyroid nodules and goiter is actually, this might sound crazy, is a natural phenomenon of the body. The body is creating, it needs iodine so much, it cannot make thyroid hormone without it. So if it's not there, then the body creates literally more surface area. It expands. And that's what thyroid nodules are. No, and if you look at how many thyroid nodules turn to cancer, it's like 1% or 0.5%.
Okay.
So all you have to do
had a
is
client-
if you have goiter, you definitely need to take the protomorphogen and iodine. If you take iodine, the body will stop. It will begin to reduce because it doesn't need to create more surface area. So anyway.
Right. Well, I had a client, which was 20-something years ago before I had the education I have now, and she did go the medical route, and then she took her life. So I just always resonate with that because I took care of her for 5 years, but I couldn't.
Well, and that there is that depression with thyroid issues. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much.
But remember, don't forget the vitamin F. If you that's especially in women with goiter or nodules, if they don't have enough vitamin F, you've got to put that triad, that winning combination together. F, iodine, Thyroid. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Joseph.
You're welcome.
Joseph, can I ask you, I'm sorry, this is Sue Massey again. AF beta food, if I'm taking 15 a day, 5, 5, and 5, is that enough F in that you don't have to take it separate?
Yeah, that should be enough, F. My caution to you is add up the amount of vitamin A if you're taking that and Immuplex, and that's why I like to use the beta food, and you're getting more betaine too for your energy and for biliary function. But yes, it's fine, but just watch out. You don't want to go over 30 IUs, 30,000 a day.
3,000. Yep.
Over
Okay.
the long haul, because then you can get into some liver issues, you know.
Okay, and if there is a liver issue, then super EFF is better than Cataplex F for those people.
Yes, right.
Thank you.
You know, having been through what you've been through, Sue, definitely Super EFF is your product. Because Lee referred to Super EFF specifically for lymphatic issues, and breast cancer is partially a poor lymphatic drainage issue.
Right.
And so anything that's going to enhance, that's why I have Thymex in there. And obviously the Super EFF, if you read what he says in the products bulletin, yes, definitely.
Okay,
Definitely.
thank you so much.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much. And
I have a follow-up question. Is a goiter going to disappear if you treat it with the iodine and F and cytophin?
yes, they do. They shrink way down.
Shrink.
Now,
Okay, cool.
for me to make the claim totally disappear would be arrogant. So, because I don't know, it depends on the individual. Yes, but I've had many thyroid nodules. You know, when they get thyroid nodules, they want to start cutting up your thyroid, which is the worst possible thing, other than removing your spleen. Removing your thyroid is, I mean, that's the top two. You know, that is, you know, tonsils, appendix, okay, gallbladder even. But when you start taking out spleens and thyroids, you are, it's not going to work out well. Let me say it that way. So yes, they do shrink up, but again, it depends if you've got the thyrotrophin, if you've got the immune system to stop attacking that organ, and you get that, and you get the vitamin F factor, because sometimes that is a vitamin F issue more than an iodine issue. So. Yep. Well, thank you all very much for being on, and thank you, Lynn, for doing a magnificent job on these PowerPoints.
Lynn is wonderful.
She is.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Joseph.
Yes, well, thank you.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you, Joseph,
Okay.
for doing this for us, for
You're
our
welcome.
study
And
group. Thank you.
our next one is the thymus. So blessings
Okay.
to you all. Take care.
Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.